Hi everyone. I'm sharing this topic with you today. I was inspired by a practice member last night who has done some work recently with Sick Kids Hospital. She's looking at the research around childhood diseases, and she was just feeling emotional, like, man, it sucks, like seeing all these kids and not well and knowing how many kids aren't well. My scope of practice is certainly not to say I'm going to replace those doctors and all the great work they're doing for some more severe or serious childhood diseases. But what we see here a lot, and what I do have perspective on, is childhood dis-ease. For example, a patient of mine referred her niece's son in a couple of years ago, and he was just over a year old. He was born caesarean section, so more of a difficult labor and delivery. And in his first year of life, he had more than once a month, on average, visits to Sick Kids Hospital. So he was at Sick Kids Hospital more than once a month for respiratory distress. And they give him puffers and they give him breathing aids, and he seemed okay, and it kept coming back. So while his mom was a little apprehensive and not understanding why a little kid would need a chiropractor when he has no bodily pain, what I did preach to her, and what I did close the gap in her headspace, was that if he has a nervous system that's been under distress, especially from the tugging and pulling that happens in a caesarean section, a lot of people think it's less traumatic. It's actually quite traumatic. So we got the opportunity to adjust this little guy twice. And I say it only twice. He was coming from the east end of Scarborough, and between travel commitment, things didn't work out. But here's the kicker. After the first adjustment, her mom said he had an immediate improvement and suppression of his Darth Vader, as she called it, like breathing, immediately. So it only confirms the factor that stress from the birth process will cause subluxation to occur. And again, subluxation means that that nervous system has been torqued and strained through the spinal column, whether right up top, any area of the spine where there is a blockage or a constraint, we're going to get nervous system distress. And nerve distress means there's dis-ease in the body. So in some kids that looks like colic, in others it looks like chronic irritability. In this young guy it looked like trouble breathing. And I've had other practice members with the same issues. And a lot of times parents are concerned and freaked out and worried, and that's not a bad reaction, but they turn to the hospital. They go into their doctor, and a lot of times prescriptions come out. And other times puffers or pharmaceutical liquids. It's a drug reaction response a lot of the time. Sometimes severe cases need that. I'm not saying that drugs are bad. But a lot of times there are more severe interference and element used when chiropractic, even massage therapy, even just gentle touch, can actually reduce the nerve interference, reduce the nerve stress, and let that baby, infant, kid function more naturally and more at ease and at peace. So if you have a child who has had any common distress, again, colic, jaundice, irritability, trouble pooping, going to the bathroom, or they're just not content, as most babies can be, by all means think about chiropractic. Whether you live in Hong Kong, whether you live in Manitoba, whether you live in Toronto, find a chiropractor who has a pediatric focus. You can ask their front desk, does your chiropractor see children? Does he see infants and babies? And if they're like, maybe, they might not be the most appropriate chiropractor. And if they're like, absolutely, we do see kids, we take care of pediatrics, and we have certification, they're one to get assessed and checked out, because an ounce of prevention and correction in this case is definitely worth a pound of cure. If you'd like to avoid asthma, bronchitis, or other, even digestive conditions that a teenage or 20-something person might get from an issue that could have been resolved more than 20 years ago. Hope that helps. Hope that helps and gives you some perspective.